Hello, everybody, and welcome to ABL Down on the Farm, episode 45, the Bob Gibson episode. We talk everything baseball prospecting here on the show, but especially prospecting in the ABL, a 30-team Dynasty league with 20 spots per team for prospects for a glorious 600 prospects. And I'm super excited today because it's our first-year player draft. It just started. And without further ado, I'm going to bring on two great guests today. First-time guy on the show, John, owner of the Colorado Rockies. Welcome to the show. And Dylan, a longtime guest of the show, back again. Thank you for joining today. It's early in the morning, Sunday morning, 10 o'clock, Saturday morning, 10 o'clock, excuse me. So I know we're like taking time away from family and the like. So I really appreciate you guys being on. The draft just literally started. And John, you have the first overall pick. Very interested to see who you're going to take here, and maybe you can share with us some thoughts, your thought process, and kind of where you're landing at this point in the draft.
Sure. I did wake up to a couple of offers in my inbox for the first overall pick, but I didn't think I'd have time to negotiate anything. When I don't usually like to kind of keep the top picks. I don't really feel comfortable taking guys without like kind of a history of stats, but it just kind of worked out this way. For me, I like to look at some stats, and I like minor league stats. I don't really rely on the NCAA stats.
Mm-hmm.
And when I took a look, a lot of the guys just didn't really get a chance to play in the minor leagues last season. They kind of got drafted late. The teams didn't work it out. So when I went through the numbers, I try to combine where do the teams take him, because look, they've done the research and the scouting. So I got to rely on that. And then I kind of look at the numbers, because, sometimes you get a guy that comes up and he just they just can't figure it out, right? And I think we've seen that in the last couple of years, guys that just start a lot. So the one guy I thought that had decent numbers and a high draft position, even though he didn't have any homers, but he was only 17 years old, and he was an A-ball, and he was holding his own. So I'm going to go, Colorado Rockies going to go with Eli Willits for the first pick.
All right. I like this pick. So you're following, very similarly to the major league teams. He went very high in the draft, obviously, a number one overall. A great pick. So if you put that in the system and make your pick, we can get on to number two in the draft board, which is me. But I do want to talk a little bit about Willits and why you selected him, and get Dylan's reaction as well. But, while we're, getting your pick on the board, I'll talk a little bit about the guy that I'm going to choose. And it's actually in part based on a trade that John and I made right after the auction took place. We actually tried to make it a few times and it got reversed because I was too eager to get it done. I acquired Thomas White from you for Ryan Sloan, which is kind of an interesting prospect trade. I think it's interesting. But with White being 21 years old and with pitching being so expensive in the ABL draft, I now have a pack of young pitchers that are coming up into the major leagues probably this year or next year. So I'm looking to avoid the auction cost of acquiring starting pitchers in the draft and accumulate these young arms to fill up my entire starting rotation. So I pivoted from the guy I was going to take at number two to a 21-year-old left-hander who throws the ball really, really fast. And it has the benefit of actually being also on my favorite team, the Cardinals. So I just selected Liam Doyle as my first overall pick. And, risky pick. This puts the Red Sox on the clock, by the way. So we'll see if they're awake and following the draft, or whether we're going to be talking about these two picks and whatever Dylan wants to talk about for a little while. I'll share some philosophies about why I chose Doyle. He was actually not the number one guy on my board. He was actually number 3 behind Willits. I won't reveal my number 1 right now because maybe he'll fall to me at 9 because I have the 9th pick. But I really do like Doyle. I talked a little bit about him on my last podcast. He's a little short for a pitcher for me, 6'2", but weighs 220, very sturdy frame. Would like him to be a little bit taller. I like my pitchers to be about 6'6", 6'7", or more. But, perfectly adequate frame. Throws the fastball really, at extreme velocity, great movement. Very interested to see how he develops his secondary pitches this year, because I think that at the major league level, that's going to be really important in order to be successful and to be at the top of a rotation as opposed to the back end of the rotation, because major league hitters can all hit the fastball. So can the Cardinals develop his secondary pitches, and can they make sure that he has the command and control necessary to be successful at the major league level? He has a very active delivery to generate the power that he has on his fastball, and sometimes that can undermine your control and your command of your secondary pitchers in particular. So there's definitely some risk here, but a 20-year-old left-hander who might actually reach the majors this season, as we've seen some pitchers. So that was the philosophy behind taking him there. Look, I have a window that just opened with Yuri Perez, who I signed to a 5-year contract, and I want to get guys to complement him and have a rotation that has these guys ascending at the right time together in unison. So we'll see if that strategy plays out, but difficult to say right now whether it has or not. I'm going to add Evan to the stage. Hold on a second.
Okay.
Joined. Hey, Evan.
There he is.
Good morning. Can you hear me? So wait, I'm on my phone.
Yeah, we can hear you and see you.
Switching it around.
Yeah.
Okay. Hello. Good morning. Happy draft day.
Happy draft day. Welcome to the show. We were just
You got the pancakes out of the way.
Yeah, talking about the first two.
I mean, I got the dishwasher I got to attend to, Saturday morning.
Yeah. All right. So Kate Anderson was just taken by the Red Sox.
All right. That sucks.
And so you're now on the clock, Evan, at 1.4.
Okay. I don't think I can do the video and the draft on my phone at the same time. Isn't it going to pause the video?
I don't know. Why don't we find out?
Yeah,
We'll be here.
Here, I'll touch in the meantime on
the
previous picks there. So, John, I really like that Willits pick. I think in a lot of first-year player drafts where you're dealing with leagues that are smaller in size, maybe 15, 20 teams, I feel like a lot of people move off of him because you don't necessarily see a path to like 80 grade anything, which is okay though. And especially in a points league like this, you don't necessarily need a guy to be that good at any specific skill, right? So we know he may be average, above average across the board, right? And he just needs to grow into that a bit. So I really liked that pick. Steve, the Doyle pick there. When I look at guys that get the reliever risk tag added to them, as the years go by, I'm starting to care less and less about that. I think we've seen a lot of teams show that they don't care much about command. I mean, they do, don't get me wrong, but they prefer stuff over a lot other than the Cardinals in the past, right, actually. And I think we're seeing them in real time maybe move away from that. And I think if Doyle gets legitimate run in the rotation this year, I don't think anyone would be surprised, right? We know the fastball is lively. I think it's just the secondaries need to grow a bit, and we could see that. I think it's easily by All-Star break.
Yeah, definitely a risk. We lost Evan, who still hasn't made his pick, by the way. So hopefully he'll rejoin the show in a minute.
Yeah.
Definitely a risky pick there. Let's see. We got a comment from Jeff.
Right. Yeah, no, I fully agree, Jeff, right? And we're seeing a lot of teams that I think maybe 5 years ago drafted a guy that made them a reliever and realized this guy has the stuff to play in the rotation. So I think teams are trying to get out ahead of that now and realize even if they have the stuff but they don't have the command, we'll teach up the command. We'll get them there with it.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I do agree with you, Dylan. There is a concern about the height, though. It does feel like, when you look at the top aces, it seems like everybody's about 6'4", at least 6'5", at least, and the kind of the shorter guys, even 6'1", 6'2", seem like the exception when it comes to kind of the upper tier. I mean, we are seeing a few guys like Yamamoto and whatnot that are doing it, but there's not many.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a concern that I have on him, and it's when I published the prospect handbook following the draft today. I mean, you'll see, I know, John, you probably haven't seen it before, but there's frame is definitely something that I evaluate players on, and
Yep.
height and weight. And it's different for pitchers than it is for hitters.
Hmm.
And so my ideal frame for a pitcher is 6'7", about 220 or more.
6'7". Wow.
Yeah. So like, obviously 6'5", 6'6" is fine. They get a good score. But if you want an ideal score, it's like 6'7", 6'8", and about 220. And there are a lot of reasons for that for me. Like, it's a lot of extension you get when you're taller, which means the ball is coming at you like much later in the delivery. So there's like less time to react to it. They tend to have a lot more ability to move the ball around in the zone, moving on their pitches. They have usually bigger hands, which means they can manipulate the ball more. There are always exceptions to these rules, right? I mean, Pedro Martinez is a famous example, who's a shorter dude who had huge hands and can manipulate pitches. But I use the frame score as a kind of a guidepost. It's not a hard and fast rule. But if you're hedging your bets on pitchers, better to go taller and heavier than go tall and lean, or 6'1", 185. The one thing I like about Doyle's frame is his weight. He's 220. It's a very sturdy guy. One of the things I worry about with shorter pitchers when they're a little bit leaner is durability, and whether their bodies were going to hold up. I have some injury risk concerns with Doyle just because he throws the ball so darn hard. But is he going to be over reliant on that fastball, or, as Dylan and I suggested earlier, can he develop the secondary pitches where he feels comfortable throwing them in 2 strike counts? Welcome back to the show, Evan.
Welcome back. I
What a
apologize,
homer.
Steve. I apologize. I had to do it.
All right.
Oh, boy.
Just,
That's
All right. I love this. All right. So Evan has taken Dax Kilby, who I like very much, and Luis Hernandez, who is my number 1 ranked overall.
We had 2 picks in a row.
Yeah, 2 picks in a row. DSL prospects. This puts John on the board. John of the Tigers. So we're moving very rapidly here. So let's talk a little bit about Cade Anderson and get you guys' reactions to Cade, who was picked number 3 overall by the Red Sox. Why don't we start with you, Dylan?
Yeah, I mean, Cade Anderson for me, I think, might have had the highest upside on the board outside of Seth Hernandez. But at the same time, we know what the Mariners are capable of in regards to pitching development, right? So between upside and just age and proximity, I felt like he was really, if I had that 102 still, I probably would have gone him there. Just because of my team's needs as well. I think starting pitching on the Athletics is a dark, desolate hole currently, and we have a lot of chips on Andrew Painter right now. So I think for me, he was one of the higher upside SPs on the board there.
Yeah, no, I had him number 10 overall on my draft board, which is obviously a good ranking too. But I can see him justified here at 1.3. Evan, what are your reactions to Cade Anderson?
So where did he go to?
3.
Okay, so he went after Liam Doyle.
Yep.
Yes. So I'm not a big Cade Anderson guy. Notoriously been calling him Fade Anderson. I'm fading Cade Anderson. I love him in ABL. He's a fantastic pick. I would have picked him 4th or 5th, whatever. If he was there, I definitely would have taken him. I'm just not very excited about him as a pitcher generally. I think he's a lefty that throws 94 max. And everything I see about him is he's basically a SP3, SP4, real life 3-4 kind of guy, maybe even a 5. Maybe turns into a crafty lefty type. I understand he was a fireballing college pitcher for LSU or whatever, but I just feel like that type of pitcher I can find cheaper, right? That's a lot of capital to give that high in the draft. And it's just not my style, but definitely an ABL, very smart pick.
All right, so I want to touch on that last part you said, Evan, about why in ABL you think it's a smart pick, because I have my own view on that too, which I expressed a little bit earlier in picking Doyle. But what are your thoughts on why Kate Anderson, even though you might rank him higher in terms of talent and upside, you think it's worth drafting him? You said you might have taken him at 1.4. He goes 1.3. So why would you have taken him that high, notwithstanding what you just said about his upside?
I think that in ABL, it's all about like a balance of factors. And a lot of those factors for me involve like the cost and where they sit like on your roster relative to everybody else. So if you have like a pitcher like Kate Anderson, who, you know, for all intents and purposes is like guaranteed a rotation spot or will be given the chance, right? They drafted him so high. They're invested in him. The Mariners, they will give him the chance. It's not like another pitching prospect where you have to determine whether they're even going to get that chance or how soon they're going to get that chance. Those are things also that I weigh, right, when you're balancing everything. So I think when you just like combine everything with the Kate Anderson or that Kate Anderson like profile type of like a $3 college pitcher who's going to be given the opportunity, who like doesn't suck and who, you know, also like doesn't have maybe as much. I mean, every pitcher has like the health risk stuff. But you know, he's not like 100-mile-an-hour. Like Liam Doyle's a little scarier as far as that goes. So, you know, like these, like certainly a lefty, right? Like this is the type that like they want in their rotation. They want to be like a stalwart starting pitcher for them, and like that's one maybe the most valuable thing for like an ABL starting pitcher, right? Plus, he's $3.
Right. All right. So, John, let's get your reactions to Kate Anderson and what your thoughts are on him.
Yeah, I mean, look, I hate to kind of draft pitchers that early. I think, but there is, I think, as commented earlier, a lot of these guys aren't that far away from the majors. So, is there some injury risk? Maybe, but when you've only got to wait 1 year to get into the majors, well, you don't have to worry as much, right? If you're drafting a kid who's 4 years away from the majors, that's 4 years he could get injured in and set him back. So I do like the risk. The last time I heard a crazy buzz about a guy where it felt like, you know, it couldn't miss was Paul Skeens. I drafted him a couple years ago and that worked out. So, you know, maybe one of these guys will hit too. I don't think they're quite the same ceiling, but, you know, pretty good. I don't know that much about them, honestly. Like I kind of take a look at the stats, and if there's no stats, I move on to someone else. But yeah, the drafts I've been in though, they seem to go kind of pretty top of the board. I actually wanted to trade down a little bit. I had a feeling that these guys might get taken before, you know, Eli, who I took, but I couldn't quite make it work. But yeah, that was my plan, to maybe take Eli 3rd or 4th versus 1st overall. But there didn't really seem to be a clear number one this draft. There was about 8 guys that could have been taken first. I've been in a few drafts, and it feels like there's someone getting taken first differently every time. So it's hard to know.
Yeah, no, I've certainly seen a bunch of guys drafted different players drafted number 1 overall. This is actually the first draft that I saw Eli Willits go number 1 overall.
Wow.
Not that that's anything wrong with the pick. I mean, he was the number 1 overall pick. I think he has a lot of interesting intangibles and skill sets. But you know, I think you're right that this draft is very uncertain at the top, and I think the uncertainty stems in a large part by the number of, you know, prep players. And as you know, as Evan just showed in drafting Luis Hernandez, and I suggested on earlier podcasts, there are some DSL players that can be taken really early, and they're 16 or 17 years old. So I do think there's a lot scaring off owners in the top of the draft, which is why you saw a couple guys trade out of the picks. So you acquired 1.1, and I acquired 1.2. So, and I know Evan was trying to move 4 and 5, wasn't able to do that, you know, to his satisfaction. And Dylan, you traded out of the first round. I do want to get to Evan's picks as well, but maybe you can talk a little bit about why you traded me the 2nd overall pick and traded back. And I know you just traded back into the first round a little bit earlier to 1.17. So maybe we talk about your philosophy there.
Yeah. So one thing I think in that moving the 102 to you was that I feel like I only have this competition window of 2026 here, where I still have Ohtani, I have Framber Valdez. I needed to make a move that helped my team right now, and I think acquiring Bryce Terang did that. In the same breath, the specific first-year player draft targets of mine, I knew I didn't need to spend that early of a pick on, right? So I knew I had these later picks that I might be able to move up using, which I've now done, moving up to 117. But that 102, I can acquire a major league quality bat in Terang, in also a position that can become desolate very quickly, and try to satisfy both. So I was joking around in the ABL chat earlier that people may have one or two targets that if they get sniped on later in the first round, they maybe try to move the pick. That's exactly how I feel with this 117. I think I have one specific guy that I'm really looking forward to. And if he's gone, I'm either going to have to pivot quickly or try to move the pick.
Well, we may make another trade then.
Yeah. And it's funny because I do have another offer out there that I know is close. So we'll see if it ends up if it ends up going through while we're on this cast here. But yeah, at the same time, I knew you were always a trade partner of mine. I knew we could easily work through a deal and satisfy both sides. And I think we did pretty quickly.
Yeah. No. I think it worked out for both of us. I'm obviously in a rebuilding mode in ABL and trying to load up for the near term. As I explained why I picked Doyle, on the pitching side. I'm a little shallow on the hitting side in terms of prospects coming up the ranks, but I did acquire Charlie Condon in the offseason, who's pretty close to the majors. And obviously Michael Arroyo is not that far away, which is why I was willing to trade, Terang. So we lost Evan again. Evan's puttering around in the kitchen right now. So while Evan's off the show until he comes back, why don't we start bashing his picks? Or talking about his picks. Let's start with the first guy, Dax Kilby. And John, why don't we start with you this time and just tell me your thoughts on Kilby and kind of where you were evaluating him in this draft.
Yeah, he didn't have a ton of stats out there. They weren't like great. So I know he's got the NCAA. He's crushing it there. He looks great there. But in terms of the minor leagues, there wasn't a lot to go on. I kind of just took him off my board in terms of it wasn't a guy I wanted to target. Most of the guys I've targeted are kind of hitters that have a little bit of success in the major leagues. Last year, for instance, the guy that I really liked was Nick Kurtz. He seemed to kind of stand out quite a bit from the others. There's a couple guys later down the board that didn't pan out, but Nick Kurtz was the one guy who stood out as, hey, this guy's having some success at the minor league level, and and he's playing above his age. So I like that. Hernandez, yeah, similarly, he seems how old is he anyways?
He's 17 years old.
17. So that's a big weight, right? Is he a super stud or is he Kevin Maitan, right? Like it's just you don't know. There's just such a weight there. It's tough to be confident in those picks, I think, right? Especially I think coming over from the Dominican or Venezuela, like it's a big difference. Like the stats aren't quite the same. The level of competition, I think there's a little more variance in the DSL, so it's tougher to know with those kind of guys. If I get a chance, I'll take guys from the American minor leagues if I can, and avoid the Latino guys. The exception, of course, is later in the round. Sometimes you'll see these first overall or second overall signed guys going in the third round, and then yeah, for sure. But it's unusual to see a DSL guy going this high up. I haven't seen a lot of that, but I guess
I know, crazy.
A lot of buzz on this guy, I guess.
Well, you have to be in the league longer with me because I pick him in the first round all the time.
Okay,
but we can talk about that too. Evan, we're talking about your two picks.
The problem is you have to be a DSL guy first.
Yeah.
See what I did there? Which he is not.
No.
Oh, sorry.
Well, he's not.
He's supposed to be, but he's too good. He's too good for the DSL.
They're probably going to start him in the U.S. stateside.
Not probably. That's what's happening.
Did they announce it? I didn't see they announced it. Yeah, he's a high upside prospect for sure. So Dylan, why don't you give your thoughts on Dax and Hernandez?
Yeah, I think it comes as no surprise that Dax Kilby was probably the biggest riser in the offseason, right? As a 18-year-old in low A, it's clear he controlled the strike zone a bit, showed the wheels off, had a 160 WRC plus. at a semi-age appropriate level, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Sure.
He was definitely, I think, in my opinion, rightfully so, risen that high. And I don't blame Evan one bit for taking him there. I don't think he would have made it even 2 more picks just based off how well he performed in that short span since he was drafted. And we all know Evan as a homer, so we knew he was going there.
Yeah. No, I'm not surprised at all by either of those picks. I'm really high on Dax Kilby. I talked about him on my last podcast. I think he's a really exciting young prospect. Obviously with any prep player, there's development weight and there's risk that comes with that because they have to mature both physically and mentally in a way that a college player is a little bit further along in the development stage. But I really like this kid. I think he has a chance to be, a legitimate top 15 prospect, in a couple of years, maybe higher. Plays a premium position at shortstop, which means he's going to be able to, make it to the majors in all likelihood, if not at shortstop, at second base or in center field. As we're seeing, shortstops are premium athletes. They can move around the diamond. So the Yankees will find playing time for him, which is exciting. And I did talk about the last podcast. I think it's a great pick. I had him ranked 9th overall on my board, but I can totally see justifying him picking him at 4 or anywhere in between there. Luis Hernandez is a guy I talked about a little bit on my initial podcast of the year, previewing the DSL signings. I didn't focus on him because he was the consensus number 1 guy. So I wanted to talk about other players that were coming up. But one of the things that is very attractive to him, is his proximity to the major leagues is a little bit the talk was that he was going to be escalated to the U.S. stateside, and I guess that has already happened, which doesn't surprise me. He'll be very young for his age, for his level that he's competing against. So it'll be really fascinating to see how he does. We often see those prospects stumble a little bit out of the gate and then find their footing in the second half of the minor league season. So we'll see how quickly Hernandez adapts to facing, 18 and 19-year-olds who have been through the U.S. system. So that'll be kind of interesting to watch. One thing that's interesting about these top DSL guys, top, Latin ball players, is they do a lot of tournament play now. And they're playing against top competition a lot more than people realize because they travel all around that part of the world to play people. So it's not as if these kids are playing on back lots against like subpar competition anymore. That used to be the case a lot more. But I think you're starting to see the competition level elevate for these players, particularly the top ones. And one of the things I always like is when a Major League Baseball team gives a guy a huge signing bonus like this, because it's a real vote of confidence in the player. And then they're doubling down by bringing him stateside. So I think this is a really interesting pick at 1.5, great value. Again, another shortstop. If he doesn't make it to the major leagues as a shortstop, can play second base, center field, really all over the diamond. The only position he probably can't play is catcher, and that's fine. So high likelihood that these guys at least make it to the major leagues in some capacity. But as John said, there is a long wait for these players. It's a future bet, but I think it's a good one.
I think we're going to look back at that Hernandez pick a year from now and realize that was definitely one of the guys that probably should have been considered for 101. I think they're already comping him to having the highest upside since Wander coming out right now, right? So,
hopefully he avoids other Wander issues.
Yeah,
yeah. No, I think there. I had Hernandez 4 on my board. So this is right where I would have taken him personally. And, you can totally justify taking him at 1 overall, I think. And, that is very risky at that point with the guy this young. The one thing I would say that concerns me about him is his height. He's 5'10". He's still young. He could get a little taller. So we'll see how that goes. But I would prefer to have my hitters be around 6'2". In terms of their frame. With a middle infielder, you can kind of get away, with being a little shorter. But the reason I mentioned the height and then the weight that goes with it is, will his power develop, his in-game power, the way you wanted to justify a first-round pick on him, or top 10 pick, I should say, in our league. I'm optimistic that he'll get there, but he is a little bit shorter than some of the other DSL guys and some of the other players that you're seeing at this high up in the draft. So that'd be my one flag on him, which is something I mentioned in a prior podcast. Let's talk. John is on the clock here at 1-6. I've been in a couple drafts with John, and he really likes Liam Doyle here because I've seen him take him a couple times. So I'm curious to see if I screwed him up and whether what he's going to do here. But any predictions on what you think John will do here? Why don't we start with you, Evan?
Guys, sorry to interrupt. I'm going to drop here. I got to take the dogs out and stuff, but I appreciate you having me on.
Oh, John, thanks for joining. Really appreciate
it. See you, John.
See you, John.
Talk to you later.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Who let the dogs out?
John. Okay. Other John. Tigers.
Yeah.
Right. That's who's on the clock.
Yeah.
I think he's taking a pitcher. I think he's a very smart guy. He's not going to take, I don't know, Luis Hernandez or something.
Right.
No, I mean, I think like guys like Seth Hernandez. So no, there have been no picks since my pick.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Yeah. So I think like Seth Hernandez is still there.
You got Jamie Arnold.
I think it was Linney who took Tyler Bremner first in ACL.
Yeah.
Which I was like
first overall.
Interesting. But also kind of love that. Like, that's going back to like these leagues, like that's what you want, right? Tyler Bremner could be in the Angels rotation in May.
Right.
And who's to say that he's not like amazing, right? That's the thing with pitchers is that I try not to get so like this is why I like push back on a lot of numbersy stuff.
Yeah.
Because like with pitchers and in pitchers in fantasy, like I don't care about your stuff plus. Like if your stuff plus is this right now, like who's to say, like what are you do you really think that you can predict what he's going to be in the majors? Like you cannot. Like I can easily convince you that Tyler Bremner will play this year, pitch 150 innings in the majors and be like a top 24 pitcher. Like that is not crazy to me. So like, why not take Tyler Bremner? Now, like that's the Angels, and like that's like very likely not to happen
be the one
at
flag
all.
And all this.
Yeah, but also like but like Tyler Bremner just specifically was a guy who was like a very highly regarded college pitcher, high school maybe too, and like yes, it's the Angels, but they didn't pick like an out of left field draft pick in Tyler Bremner, right? They picked like a good starting pitcher. So I'm just saying, like, who knows? I wouldn't take Tyler Bremner there, but
Evan, I think you're making my argument for Cade Anderson for me, which is that I didn't think his stuff was there for him to have the highest upside, but I think the upside comes in the fact that he's on one of the best pitching development teams, right? Like
that's true.
Let him get to the majors, they'll figure out the stuff. The command is decent, right? So that was my argument for taking him higher than most.
And as down as I might be on Cade Anderson, I definitely would have taken him at 4 and 5. Like I really wanted a pitcher, Doyle or Anderson, to be there at 4 or 5. So when both of them are not there, I just went with like high risk, high reward.
Yeah. Dan, you definitely got really high ceilings on both those players. Bremner is a guy I have him ranked 18th on my board.
Yeah.
So first round grade, but
like in ABL, do you want Tyler Bremner or do you want Seth Hernandez?
This is a good question.
In ABL, right?
Yeah. So look, I really think it depends on where you're picking in the draft. I have Hernandez ranked higher. Because I think his upside is a lot higher. I've got guys on my particular roster who are already now in their 20s and on the cusp of the majors. So I don't mind taking a guy who's a little further away, who I think may be having the bigger upside because I need that next tranche of pitchers anyway. So for me, given my roster, like I would take Hernandez over Bremner, but I understand the counter argument. I think there's another guy on the board who's a prep player, Jamie Arnold.
Not a prep player.
Oh, wait, how old does he remind me? Oh, he
went. I mean, I just know. I think he went to Florida State.
Right.
I think he's 21. Yeah.
Yeah, 21. All right. So another college pitcher. Sorry. So, he's another guy who could go here. At John's pick.
Right.
And
I would take Arnold before Tyler Bremner.
I
was just like making a point about.
Yeah.
I think most people might look at Seth Hernandez. I really like JoJo Parker. I was looking at, but I thought Luis Hernandez is more fun than JoJo Parker. Frankly,
Yeah.
I mean they both could.
I
They're both great, but
I agree. Oh yeah, I like JoJo Parker too, but I definitely have Hernandez ranked above him.
right.
Yeah, I've got Arnold 8 overall, and John's picking 6. So if you want pitcher here, that makes a lot of sense to me. But I could see him going there. What do you think, Evan? I mean, Dylan. I already talked to Evan.
Yeah, I could see it. I have one other, I guess, pitching guy that I think is on the board that I'm wondering from both of you how.
And here's the guy.
There
the guy
he
with
is.
the car phone. He's on the clock. You're on the clock, brother. We're talking about who you should pick.
Oh, perfect.
On the move.
All right, then I will extend this drive home a little while so that I don't have to make a switch. And okay, so I haven't even looked. I just got out of this thing. I haven't looked at the board yet.
All right,
You're on the clock.
Yeah, I'll read it off to you.
Okay.
Willett's 1. Doyle
Look,
2.
don't draft and drive.
Oh.
Just public service announcement.
Cade Anderson 3.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Dax Kilby 4.
Sure.
Luis Hernandez 5.
Were you at 5?
No, I picked Doyle at 2.
I took 4 and 5.
Oh, okay. So you took
But
Doyle.
I do
or not, sorry.
appreciate, John, that you thought I took Hernandez at 5. I do appreciate that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought you had traded up or something, or traded down rather. Or traded somewhere. All right. So wait, who did you take at 4 and 5 then? You took Doyle or you took Hernandez and who?
Evan
Kilby.
Evan took Kilby
okay.
and Evan took Hernandez. He had back-to-back picks, 4 and 5.
Did I mess you up?
Oh, are y'all gonna make me choose between JoJo Parker and Seth Hernandez? Is that what's happening?
So we were just
Right.
talking about who you might take here, and somebody just mentioned JoJo Parker.
Yeah.
And Seth Hernandez was discussed. We also talked about Jamie Arnold, and Evan was making the dark horse argument for Tyler Bremner, who Linney took number 1 overall in ACL.
I think that's probably enough love for Bremner. I think.
And John, my
like
question
Bremner.
for you is 1-6 too early to take Ryan Weiss?
No. How did you know?
This is a genuine question though. Like,
Yes.
is the first round too early for Ryan Weiss to be going? If he's in the Astros rotation, should he go in the first round?
I don't think so. I think I think once you get into like the late teens, 20s, you can probably start thinking about him.
Mm-hmm.
Especially depending, like if you have a really good farm system, then why not?
Why not?
Yeah. Could somebody could somebody log into my Fantrax queue and tell me who's up for me?
If Duke's listening in, just draft him.
Yeah, that's right. Give me a second to get to a spot where it is less problematic for me to try to navigate this.
Oh no, safety first, John. Safety first. We all appreciate your eagerness to draft, but don't crash.
Yeah,
That would be the most 2026 driving ticket ever for podcasting and drafting at the same time.
Yeah, it's a badge of honor and also fine.
That's right. You got 32 minutes on the clock left, so you got time to find a safe place.
I don't hear Steve. I'm just saying that. I don't hear you, Steve.
Oh, you don't hear my mic at all? Dylan, do you hear me?
I got you.
Yeah, he hears me. So it must be you, Evan.
Okay, so I am like off the top of my head, I am thinking it's between Parker and Hernandez. And one of the weird things that is not like the most rational thought process in the world is I've been drafting for like 3 months now in a bunch of different leagues, and there's a part of me that's also just almost trying to diversify.
Well, let's talk about that. Yeah, go ahead. Finish your thought.
Yeah, just because like it's not totally irrational, right? Because you do want to spread around your level of risk. But I'm also kind of thinking about it more from like a fun perspective of like, it's just sort of fun to have different players, which is not the most rational.
Right.
But I have a little bit of Parker. I don't have Seth anywhere. So that's Oh shoot, my wife is asking me why I'm not home yet. That makes sense. I did just decide to drive around randomly. One moment.
That's all right. We don't want to get you in trouble either.
Just a draft drive.
Draft and drive. So that's interesting. He's thinking about taking JoJo Parker 6th overall or Seth Hernandez. What do you guys think of JoJo Parker?
I cannot hear Steve. Do you hear me?
I hear you.
You guys hear me okay?
I hear him. I hear him.
I hear Dylan. I don't think I hear Steve. Something happened when John came on. Just letting you know if you're talking to me.
You might have to hop out and hop back in because I can hear him.
Yeah, I think it might be a glitch. I'll be back.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to go wrong if you pick JoJo Parker here, right? Don't think he has much stolen base acumen, but I feel like the hit tool's there, the power's there. I mean, it seems like he's got a pretty clear path to being an impact player. I feel like it's a decent floor pick here, where I see Hernandez being probably the more upside pick.
Yeah.
I was thinking about it the other way around, just because of Parker coming out of high school. Wait, but Hernandez is out of high school too, isn't he?
Right. I think they both are. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I have a hard time sticking like
if a pitcher
high upside.
If even a prep pitcher is being talked about that high, that they must be more polished. But I don't know if that's true of Hernandez, is it?
Hernandez is definitely a guy who's getting a lot of praise. I've read inconsistent reports about the shape of his fastball. I mean, his which is something that the Pirates can work on.
Now I can't hear Steve.
Oh, all right. Well, he's not hearing my critique of Hernandez then. So
right.
Evan, do you hear him?
I hear everybody now. Yeah, I think it's like a log in, log out situation.
Yeah. So I mean, I've heard.
I can't hear Steve, so I guess I'll log out and log in.
Yeah. Right. So I think I've read scouting reports that suggest the shape of his fastball is not where it should be. Again, that's something that everybody can work on in the minor leagues, and the Pirates have done a nice job of developing minor league pitchers. They've also done a nice job of identifying talent at the pitcher level. His big money pitch is his changeup. He already has apparently really good command of that, and it's a 70 grade pitch, which is pretty fantastic to go with a 60 grade fastball. But is that fastball at the major league level going to be the pitch that can establish the count early on? Because the changeup is not the pitch you usually start with, with a sequence. It's probably his out pitch. So we'll see. John, can you hear me now?
I can. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Great.
All right. My little pugilist wants to say hello as well.
Oh, all right. The MMA. Hey, how's it going?
Freddie.
I love it. First time on the pod.
That's right. He's a rookie.
That's right. I was just saying, John, that with the scouting report.
I can't hear anybody.
Logging back out. Dude, it's all you guys on the phone, man. So I was reading the scouting reports on Hernandez, and there's questions about the shape of his fastball. And I was saying that's something that can be worked on in the minor leagues. And the Pirates have done a nice job of developing pitchers, but you want to see that pitch come along and be a pitch that can really establish the count early. Because his changeup is his money pitch, and you'd want to see him be able to kind of really establish that fastball, particularly at the AA level when he gets there. So
I just lost Steve again.
Oh, it's something to do with two guys being on the phone at the same time, I think.
I tell you what, guys, I am pulling into my house in just a minute, and I have a feeling I'll be doing some explaining. So I might jump back on a little bit later.
Do you guys hear me?
Yeah. I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
All right, John. Have a good one.
Yeah, I'm sorry about all the
technical.
Where is he?
Oh, he's back.
Where is Evan? All right, we lost everybody. It's just
here.
You and
I'll
me,
touch
buddy.
last bit on JoJo Parker is I feel like the reason I can't slap a high upside pick on him is the lack of speed. I think the bat has to carry so much, especially out of a prep player like that, for me to think the upside's higher than where he's being taken. And maybe he grows into some stolen base acumen, because I think as we're learning with these new stolen base rules, you don't have to be the fastest player to be able to steal bases. We've seen this with Juan Soto. We've seen this with Josh Naylor. We see this with Kyle Tucker, right? So maybe he grows into it. It's just the bat has to do a lot of carrying, like the Corey Seager type, right?
Yeah.
For that to work. So.
Yep. I mean, he is playing a premium position.
Right.
I've seen a lot of shortstops go early in the draft, right? And the reason I mentioned that is I agree with you. His profile is a little bit more limited, but he should have the power, to go with, and he does have like a good hit tool grade, and he's playing at a position where he's very likely to get at bats at the major league level. This is a guy who can play second base, shortstop, outfield, probably third base even he could play, given his arm strength. So I have him 13th on my board overall. But some people really love him. I don't have a single share of him because people are definitely drafting him earlier than I have him graded.
Yes.
So I don't know, where you have him on your board, but that's just kind of like, I like this player a lot. I wouldn't necessarily take him in the top 10, but then again, I'm very embracing of risk. Right. So the guys that are in my top 10, include guys like Luis Hernandez and players of that nature. I do really like Seth Hernandez. I think he's a great pick in the first round, top 10. Definitely see him going pretty soon. And our good friend Tom is on the board after John with the White Sox pick at 1-7.
I guess the one good example I have from a draft where I had JoJo Parker sitting in front of me was that I decided to go with Gavin Feen over him. I felt like maybe the power upside was a little higher, and I think Feen may actually be the better overall player. So I guess that's really the only example I have of Parker being available and me probably taking Feen a little bit higher than he's currently being taken, and then Parker actually falling a little bit further than where he normally would have. Yeah,
I think it
might have been 10th overall. I
have Feen ranked a little bit lower, but still in the first round for me. But definitely a power play. You got Nayans in there as well, who plays third base. It's an interesting pick here, or in the middle of the first round, I should say. Welcome back, Evan.
Hello. Had to take a phone call that time. Sorry.
No, it's all right. Life happens.
A lot going on.
At some point, I have to cook brunch for my wife, and so
very nice. Yeah,
that'll happen soon as well.
Sure.
So we kind of wrapped up John's picks. We'll see who he takes. I'm sure he's getting some crow from his wife, so we'll understand.
So he hasn't picked yet.
Not yet. 23 minutes left on the board. And then Tom is next at 1.7 for White Sox. Any predictions for Tom here at 1.7?
Trade.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see Tom. Tom loves to put a feeler right during the draft. I'll move.
Tom is going to trade. He's going to trade for 1.8 or 1.9. He's going to move back like 2 spots.
Yeah,
that's my prediction.
He loves doing that. You're absolutely correct. I mean, you can tell Evan and I have been in many drafts with Tom, and he's the guy who holds the clock up and is just sitting on the pick and trying to see if there's any takers. Can he get some marginal upgrade? I'll trade back to 111 or and maybe gain a 4th round pick or something. Yeah, that's Tom. Or $2.
I could also see taking Seth Hernandez here if John doesn't take him.
I would be, somebody's going to
looking at his roster, and
Seth Hernandez would be my pick. Would be my John pick. That's what I would do here.
Yeah, no, I could totally see that. I mean, I think he's a great pick here. Love Seth Hernandez. I talked about the one very minor qualm I have with him right now, but. I got a share of him in a couple leagues, early in the first round. Big fan of Seth Hernandez.
Yeah. The Pirates had another pitcher with bad fastball shape, Paul Skeens.
Yeah.
Now, Seth Hernandez isn't Paul Skeens, but the shape thing.
I agree. Overrated. Welcome back, John. I'm glad you're not in the doghouse.
Still hiding.
John Thrice. Yeah.
I made it to the basement. So
Yeah,
we'll see. All right, let me pull up the spreadsheet. So what's the, I mean, if it's, I don't mean to take over, but like, I'll try to make this pick in a second. I'd be curious what you all think.
of who to pick here?
Yeah, between the two.
Sorry, you just missed it.
We just, yeah, it's funny, we were just talking about
Not
that.
repeating myself.
I've been
You
just
can
going-
rewind. You can
And I'll go
rewind.
back. Yeah, I'll make the pick. I'll go back, and I'll either feel like a dumbass or
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
No,
No,
I feel like you know what you want to do, and I think that's the right thing to do. That's what I'd say.
Follow your heart. Is
That's right.
that what I'm hearing?
Or your
Follow
brain.
your arrow.
One of the two. One of the two. They may be the same thing, but like, you know. Oh.
Yeah, go on, Seth.
All right. Seth Hernandez comes off the board. And I will tell you that he is the #1 ranked prospect of the first-year player draft in the handbook this year.
Well,
So I had him 1-1 on my board. So very interesting pick. I like Seth Hernandez a lot. But you know, long way away from the majors. So we'll see how he develops. I think he's a really interesting pitcher. Great frame. You know, got this killer changeup. Control is supposed to be good. We'll see how that fastball comes along. And he actually has multiple pitches. I mean, he's not just a 2-pitch guy. He has a repertoire at 19. So really excited about him. And I think, before you got back on, Evan was saying he thought that was the pick here too. And I think Dylan was open to that as well, if I'm not speaking out of turn.
yeah.
So who do we like here? Evan was saying, John, before you got back on, that now Tom's going to send the obligatory note out about trading down, which he does every single year when he picks. So we do anticipate that happening. But who do you like here for Tom at 1-7?
I guess Parker, like for me in my rankings, Parker is next up. I do think Jamie Arnold is interesting in a league like ABL where pitching is still, I mean, as we just witnessed, such a premium. So for me, it kind of comes down between the two. You could always kind of mess around with Ethan Conrad. I know Ethan Conrad has a lot of like rabid fans, especially the what's his name, the brick wall guy.
Yeah.
But I don't know. To me, that's who I would be choosing between.
Yeah. So it's interesting you say that. I've been in a couple drafts with Tom where he's gotten JoJo Parker. I know he's a big fan. So I could see him going there with this pick. I think Arnold's an interesting choice there. But I'm not sure Tom does that. I know he's really high on Kyson Witherspoon, the Red Sox. And so I could actually see him going here, like with this pick. And I really like Witherspoon as well, but I don't have him this high in the draft. But Tom is really high on him, and I saw him take him very early in one draft. So I'd look out for that here too. But I would not be surprised at all if it's JoJo Parker at this point. Dylan, what are your thoughts? I know you probably like Witherspoon too, being a Red Sox fan. Yeah,
no, I feel like I could see him trading down in hopes that Witherspoon falls a bit. I do feel like he isn't being overdrafted. Trading down is maybe the most likely here. I expect, just because if you're not big on Fiend, Hall, or Parker, I don't think you want to pick here, right? You can probably slide a little bit and get someone else. Steele Hall, I feel like the upside may be huge, but I think it's just such a raw profile. I don't know if Tom's the type to go for any of those three. So my money's on trading down, I think, at this point.
Yeah, no, Tom loves to trade down. So I could totally see that. But what do you guys think? Guy who was really hyped coming into the draft last year, the actual draft, and slid down boards a little bit and has kind of lost some of his luster is Ethan Holiday. And what are you guys' takes on him?
I actually think he's probably pretty undervalued at this point. And as I was looking at the spreadsheet, I was kind of kicking myself for not mentioning him just now. I don't think this is a bad spot to take him. I think his risk is being overestimated based on a pretty small sample.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
what are your thoughts?
I think he fits on a particular team. Like if you can take the risk with him, you could hold on to him, and you're not counting on like this particular pick on your minors roster to be one that you need to count on. Like if you already have guys that you can count on a little bit more, I think he's probably a good pick. But yeah, I mean, this is like a weird area of the draft value wise, and I think value is like the most important thing. So I think he's like a little too risky for me.
Yeah,
to take this is just like a tad too high for me.
Yeah. I mean, he's an interesting guy because we were talking earlier about players that have limited upside in other categories. He doesn't have a lot of speed. He's a very slow runner. So he's not going to generate a lot of points for you in a points league from stolen bases or from runs scored, because he's not a guy who's necessarily going to advance bases on the base path and get into scoring position, or come from, he'll be more limited coming from scoring position and actually scoring. His hit tool has got some risks to it. I agree the sample size is too small to really worry about at this point, but his grade is like a 45 grade hit tool. And that presents some risk. I mean, his calling card is power, right? He's got a 65 power grade. He's in the Rockies organization. Obviously, that's attractive if he actually makes it to Colorado. Guy could hit a ton of home runs, and the question is whether his hit tool is going to come along. If he can be like a 50 hit tool guy, if he can hit 250, 260, somewhere in there, that power will carry. Or is he a poor man's Joey Gallo? He does play shortstop, but not a premium athlete. So he's probably not going to be a shortstop when he gets to the major leagues. Maybe a third baseman. Could move over to second base. Not terrible, but
I think he's a first baseman.
Yeah, and I was going to say that was going to be my third choice. I mean, he could slide over there. And so, a lot of warts on him, but very intriguing upside on the power scale. He was very early in the draft process last year. People were talking about him going number 1 overall, and he's really fallen down not only in the actual draft. I mean, not precipitously, but he's come down. He's come down in fantasy circles. So kind of interested to see where he goes here. Another guy we haven't talked about is Xavier Nayans a lot. And I'm interested to get your guys' thoughts on him as we approach this part of the draft and into the early teens. Why don't we start with you, Evan?
I don't know. I don't know much about him. I have not read a lot about him. He's basically I have prospects that are pretend I do not see it prospects. I've said this before, where it's I follow prospects. I'm really clued in on prospects, and I get so clued in that it's overwhelming how many names there are. So I just can't pay attention to every single prospect. Therefore, there are some prospects where I just say, I'm not even going to think about you. Don't even exist.
He's off your radar screen, or that means Evan's hoping he falls to him later in the draft.
No, it's fine. If you were going to just ask me, I think Xavier Nayans, I think he went to college. He's an athletic outfielder type, who with hit tool problems, but like Elijah Greenish. Sorry to invoke Elijah Green, but
Elijah Green. I think the guy who's most like Elijah Green it might be a guy like Ethan Holiday, but
yeah, I mean maybe. I think Ethan Holiday doesn't really run though like that.
Yeah, with the exception of the speed.
Yeah, I think Xavier Nayans might be a guy who can run around the outfield and steal bases and stuff.
Yeah,
or maybe I'm totally wrong. Also,
right now,
I said, I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe he's
a third baseman right now.
Oh, okay, fine.
Whether
whatever.
he stays there or not is another question.
I mean, I think I know a lot of people like him. Has a name that stands out. Starts with an X. These things are important.
Move them up the board.
I'm telling, they're important. Xavier Nayans. You see that name on Fantrax, and you're oh, X Nayans. Interesting. Picked high. Okay.
The Blaze Jordan principle. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So, John, what do you
But
think?
like
What do you
again, for me, there are too many other guys that I'm actually interested in and I like that I just wouldn't consider him. But like he could be a top 10 prospect next year. I don't know.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, John, what are your thoughts on the X-Man?
I don't know a whole lot about it. I was distracted. I was trying to figure out. Dylan looks like he's inside of a wiffle ball.
There's something hovering here.
No, I don't know more than what y'all just said. I'll be like, you've heard me say this before. I'm a list boy. I don't end up doing a whole lot of deep dives unless I'm trying to choose between two different players. And so in some ways I'm not the best guest for this because I subscribe to a bunch of places, dump it all into a spreadsheet, and trust that the aggregate of that knows better than me.
You're crowdsourcing.
Yeah.
Trusting that other people know better than me has served me incredibly well for over 43 years.
Yeah.
So, Dylan, what are your thoughts, if any?
I'll give a little more insight. I think he goes at an interesting point in the draft where, like, there is a lot of interesting players around that. I guess we could call it maybe 15 to 22, where you have a solid mix of a couple pitchers, right? Witherspoon, Gagewood, Bremner, around that range. You also have one of the higher upside international guys there, Angel Gomez, who I've actually seen go as high as 12 in some drafts. I think a lot of people are sort of pinning him as number 2 behind Luis Hernandez. You also have Jamie Arnold in that range, right? So to me, it appears it's like him, Holiday, and yeah, it's really, those are the only 2, I think, prep guys going in that range. And they both have sort of a similar profile, right? Where it's big power, but sort of some strikeout issues. It just depends on your risk tolerance, right? In my opinion, with there being so much high upside pitchers in that range, I can see him falling a bit. But then you also have Ethan Frey, who, if we're going to judge guys based off their appearance in this past season, he should be up there with Dax Kilby in the sense of they both sort of showed out in August and September, right? So it's an interesting spot. I'm curious to see where he lands.
Yeah, I've got Xavier Nyans at 15 on my board. So I like him a little bit more than I guess the lists do, or than Evan can focus on. And I think he has an interesting profile. I think the Astros have done a nice job identifying offensive players over the years. I like how they develop their hitters. So he's a guy I'm high on. He's got good scouting reports from Baseball HQ and from Baseball America. But he's a cut below guys like JoJo Parker for me. And some of the other guys that we've been talking about. I see him as like an early teens, late teens pick. There's a lot of value. Another guy we haven't talked about, who's one of the very few college bats in this draft here, is Arquette. And what are your guys' thoughts on him, John? Maybe we'll start with you.
Sorry, Steve, if I can just interrupt you quick. I actually have to hop here. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thanks, Dylan.
I'll catch up with you guys soon.
All right.
See ya.
Take care.
Yeah, Arquette's interesting because I feel like in a lot of drafts in the last few months, I'm seeing Arquette and Hall ranked really similarly, but go so far apart. I keep seeing Hall slide sometimes almost to the second round in 30 teamers, where Arquette has been usually in the kind of the back end of the top 10. And they have different skill sets, but I'm not sure the risk profile is actually that different.
Yeah.
I think Hall it's something about speed being a big part of somebody's game seems to maybe artificially inflate people's perception of risk, which is interesting. Arquette sounds like like a watered down version of JoJo Parker in some ways, a slightly watered down version of JoJo Parker, which is still really valuable. But I don't know. He's just never, whenever I'm up, he's often there. And there's always at least a couple players a little bit more interesting.
A little more attractive to you.
Yeah. Which means that in 5 years, he's going to be like a top 10 player in baseball. And once again, I'll be scratching my head.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, Evan brought up Elijah Green earlier, and I think this is actually the guy in the draft who's like probably the closest to Elijah Green because of his hit tool. Speed power combination, a lot of upside if this kid can actually make contact and because he can drive the ball with authority. Huge exit velocity. He's got the speed to go with it, but can he make enough contact to actually reach the major leagues? And that's a big question to me. What are your thoughts, Evan, before I go on about Arquette?
Yeah, I really like Arquette. He went to college. Is that right?
Yeah.
He's a college bat.
Yeah.
So definitely like that. I really like Miami right now. I like them as like an up and coming team / front office situation / also really like a bunch of their prospects. And I sort of have like faith in them becoming a good system, like publicly, like people, like more eyes being clued in on them, and just a lot of their guys getting pumped up a little bit more. I think Arquette got hurt. I think he was hurt, and I think that hurt the perception of him and like his value. Like I think if he was never hurt and he just went and played a little bit more. Although actually, I think he played and was not that great, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
like at the end of last year.
Yeah, he definitely struggled.
So yeah, I think there was that, but I think maybe that combined with the fact that he got hurt, and I think there was a surgery or something. I think he's taken a hit, like his perception, his value has taken a hit in that way. But like overall, I think he's a really good pick. He's a really, really good pick if he falls and he kind of just like falls in your lap and you don't know what to do and he's there. I really like taking him. I also think, not to go into the card stuff, but there were, in the recent Bowman draft, right? They had a bunch of the recent draftees, their cards. And I've seen a lot of those guys, their perceived values jump up. Guys like Eli Willits, his cards are really valuable, even if he's not looked at even as like a great prospect necessarily. I mean, he was the first overall pick, but it's not like he's even a top 10 Baseball America guy, right? But his cards are doing really well. And I really think that's just because he was in this Bowman class that just came out within the past few months. And that's also guys like Seth Hernandez, Jojo Parker. So those guys have their autographs in those cards. Arquette does not. Yeah. And it's interesting to think about it that way. If Arquette had a card that was very buzzy with card people right now, I bet you'd see him be a little bit more valuable, like in these situations as well. So I think Arquette is a very good sneaky pick at this point in like draft season.
Yeah, never thought about cards impacting that.
That's cool. Go ahead, John. I'm sorry.
No, I just said I've never thought about card collecting impacting it, but it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, no, it definitely creates buzz around these players. A guy who has a lot of buzz right now is Liam Doyle in the card market. Right. Seeing his cards really skyrocket. So you've seen him taken very early in drafts. I mean, I just took him 1-2, but not because of his card value.
Right. But like Dax Kilby, I think Dax Kilby has been pumped up. People see the Yankees guy. His cards are like crazy. Everybody wants the Yankee prospect first auto. And I think that's contributed. I mean, I think Dax Kilby's shown some really good signs anyway, like on the field. But I don't think you can deny like the impact of that. So
yeah. So I have Arquette 12th on my board. One ahead of JoJo Parker. So I really like him in this range of the draft, but obviously not at 1-7. I would take, but as we're getting out of the top 10, I think he's right there on the board. And to me, at that level, the risk reward is there for a guy who is 60-60 power and speed, and you're kind of banking on that hit tool coming around. He's an interesting player. A lot of different outcomes. He's a good athlete, so he's that shortstop. He can move around the diamond. I keep making that point. A lot of paths to the majors, if it provided again that he can get his hit tool in order. The one thing I would say about his hit tool that is a little bit more concerning than say a prep player like Ethan Holiday we were talking about before. When you see college guys who have hit tool concerns, they've had a lot of years to work and a lot of coaching to work on that hit tool. And that is concerning that it hasn't come around. So I wouldn't take him in the top 10, but I like that early teen space. It's kind of worth the risk to me. And I could totally see taking JoJo Parker ahead of him at that point for that reason. But, if I was choosing between Ethan Holiday and, Arquette, I'd probably take Holiday just because of, the 65 power grade going in cores and the longer pathway to fix the hit tool. It does give me a little bit of concern here that, he's a college bat and he still hasn't found, a way to make consistent contact, but could be a star. So that probably rounds out like the top 10 to 15 discussion. I think that's probably a good place to call it a wrap and let you guys get back to your day lives and your families before they burn us all at the stakes. But really appreciate you guys taking Sunday morning to chat prospecting in the first year player draft. I think it was a lot of fun to kind of like copy it along and see how it was going, and to get Evan on and John on while they were making their picks. So good luck the rest of the way in the draft. I'll have you guys on the show, I'm sure, again very soon. And for everybody else at home, remember to ABP. Always be prospecting.
Thanks, guys. Good luck.
I'm gonna go face my reckoning.